Good evening, dear soul. There are moments in life when the world seems impossibly still, when the air itself feels pregnant with something unseen, something waiting to unfold. You can sense it, can't you? That quiet stirring deep within your spirit, whispering that change is near, not the ordinary kind of change, the slow and predictable sort, but the kind that alters the very landscape of your existence overnight. You may not see it yet, but you are standing on the threshold of a divine interruption, a blessing that will change everything. It often happens like this, just when you've settled into the rhythm of disappointment, when your prayers have grown quieter and your faith feels fragile, God moves. Not gradually, not with hints or warnings, but suddenly. His blessings are rarely announced with trumpets. They often arrive disguised as ordinary days. The shift begins when you least expect it. One message, one meeting, one open door, and the weight of years begins to lift. We are too accustomed to measuring God by time. We think the blessing must take months, perhaps years, to unfold. But time bends before the author of time. When he decides the moment has come, eternity rushes in, and the impossible becomes inevitable. What you could not build in 10 years, he can breathe into existence in a single night. Do you recall how Joseph went to sleep in a prison cell and woke up in a palace? There was no warning, no gradual climb, just one divine appointment that changed his destiny forever. The world calls it coincidence, heaven calls it timing. And in that same manner there comes a night for every weary soul when the shackles fall and the morning light unveils a completely different story. Perhaps you've grown tired of waiting. Maybe your faith feels worn from all the almosts and not yets. But understand this, your delay is not denial. It is divine preparation. God does not rush greatness, he refines it. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every lonely hour has been shaping you for the weight of the blessing about to arrive. For blessings, when premature, can crush the unprepared. What you thought was punishment was, in truth, protection. And now something sacred is shifting in your atmosphere. Heaven has already written the moment of your turnaround. You may still see emptiness, still feel forgotten, but faith is the art of trusting God's handwriting before the ink dries. The silence you've endured is not absence, it's alignment. Things are being arranged in rooms you've never entered, by people who do not even know your name yet but soon will. When God decides to bless you, no force on earth can resist it. No whisper of envy, no wall of opposition, no delay of circumstance can stand in its way. Because when the divine hand moves, it does not negotiate, it transforms. It does not knock politely, it breaks barriers. That is why sometimes, before the blessing, everything falls apart. The old structure must collapse to make space for what's coming. You might look around and see nothing but endings, relationships dissolving, opportunities fading, support disappearing. Yet what if these endings are heaven's way of clearing the path? The pruning feels painful only until the fruit appears. Remember, God's silence is not his stillness. Beneath the surface, he is rearranging your destiny like a master sculptor, chiseling away what no longer serves your purpose. The blessing you are about to walk into will make sense of your pain. It will vindicate your patience. It will silence the doubt that mocked your faith. Overnight, things will look different, not because the world has changed, but because grace has visited your doorstep. You will realize that all along, God had been orchestrating a sequence so precise, so miraculous, that no human explanation could contain it. So, hold your head high, even if your heart feels heavy. The dawn you prayed for is closer than you think. Rest tonight, not in anxiety, but in expectation. The same God who parted seas, raised the dead, and spoke galaxies into being is still writing your story, and He is about to turn the page. You are standing at the edge of divine fulfillment. What once felt delayed will soon feel destined. Prepare yourself, not in fear, but in gratitude, because when the blessing arrives, it will not ask for your permission. It will simply overtake you. It will be more than a reward. It will be restoration. The kind of blessing that not only lifts you, but redeems the years you thought were lost. And when that morning comes, you will understand why God made you wait. You will see that every tear watered the seed of the miracle you're about to receive. You will look back and realize that the breaking was the blessing in disguise, and the night that felt endless was merely the prelude to your dawn. So take a deep breath. The waiting is over. Heaven has already spoken. The blessing is on its way, and when it arrives, it will change everything overnight. There is something mysterious about the way God moves, something both sudden and silent. The first sign of change is not always thunder or vision, but stillness. You begin to sense a divine stirring, an unexplainable awareness that life is about to shift. Yet, it doesn't announce itself with fanfare or prophecy. It slips into your story quietly, like dawn breaking after a night so long you forgot the warmth of morning. When God moves, He rarely warns. His miracles do not need permission or preparation. They arrive when the heart has surrendered and faith has matured in the soil of waiting. Divine change does not always walk through the front door. Sometimes it enters through the back, disguised as something ordinary, a phone call, a message, a meeting that seems random, a moment that looks small. But beneath that simplicity is heaven's orchestration. You will realize later that what appeared accidental was the turning point written into your destiny before you were even born. That's how God operates. He conceals greatness in simplicity and wraps breakthrough in the ordinary so that only faith can recognize it. Human beings are conditioned to look for progress in predictable patterns. We expect the climb to be slow, the reward to follow the effort, the fruit to match the season. Yet the Creator is not bound by such logic. He delights in doing the impossible at the most improbable hour. The widow's jar of oil did not multiply gradually. It overflowed in a moment. Peter fished all night and caught nothing, but one word from Christ filled his nets to breaking. Lazarus didn't recover, he resurrected. That is the nature of divine intervention. It's not progress, it's transformation. It doesn't improve your situation, it redefines it. And when that blessing comes, it will not consult your calendar. You will wake up to find the impossible made possible. The season of obscurity will give way to recognition. The years of pain will dissolve into purpose, and the story that once sounded like tragedy will begin to sound like testimony. Overnight, the equation shifts, and everything you thought was permanent proves temporary, because in one divine moment, God can compress decades of delay into a single encounter of destiny. There is a danger, however, in becoming too familiar with disappointment. We begin to expect the long road, to assume that change must be slow, to lower our faith to match our frustration. We forget that the one we serve specializes in suddenly. In Scripture, the word suddenly often precedes the greatest breakthroughs. Chains falling in prisons, storms silenced at sea, sight restored to the blind. Heaven's movements are swift, because when divine timing and divine will align, nothing can delay the outcome. Yet, God's suddenlies are never random. The overnight blessing is not a lucky strike. It is the visible result of invisible preparation. It is the harvest of faith sown in silence. What feels like an unexpected miracle to you is often the fulfillment of years of unseen alignment in heaven's design. Every tear you cried, every prayer you whispered, every moment you stayed faithful when no one saw, it all formed the foundation for that single night when heaven opens its hand and everything changes. You must understand that divine timing is not about speed, it's about readiness. God waits until the heart is steady enough to carry the weight of what He's about to give. Sometimes He delays the blessing not because you are unworthy, but because you are still healing from what wounded you. A premature miracle can destroy what patience was meant to build. But once the refining is complete, God does not hesitate. The moment you align, heaven accelerates. That is why faith must stay awake, even in the long night, because when the miracle comes, it will not knock, it will burst through. You won't have time to prepare, you will have to respond, and in that instant you will understand that God was never absent. He was waiting for this exact alignment, this precise hour, this divine convergence of His promise with your perseverance. So, hold on when everything looks still. The stillness is not the end, it is the tension before the release. Just as dawn follows darkness, your breakthrough will follow this silence. The blessing that's coming does not need a crowd or a sign, it only needs your endurance. You will look back one day and realize that all the waiting, all the wondering, and all the tears were leading to this moment, this divine suddenly that changes everything overnight. For the one who believes, delay is only an illusion. The truth is, heaven is always working, and when the time comes, your story will turn so quickly that even your doubts will be left behind, wondering how darkness turned into light so fast. That is the beauty of divine surprise. It does not come to warn you, it comes to lift you, and when it does, nothing remains the same. Waiting. That word alone can feel heavy to the human heart. To wait is to wrestle between faith and fear, between hope and disappointment. It is to walk through long corridors of silence, asking if God still remembers your name. But the truth, though often hidden in the ache, is that waiting is never wasted. It is preparation disguised as delay. Every moment of stillness, every unanswered prayer, every season where nothing seemed to move, was quietly shaping you into the person capable of carrying the blessing you've been praying for. We often confuse waiting with inactivity, assuming that if we cannot see movement, there must not be progress. Yet, beneath the surface of still waters, life stirs. Roots grow deepest underground, unseen and unnoticed. The same is true for the soul. While you wait, God is not merely holding your blessing, He is strengthening your foundation. He is developing the patience, humility, and discernment that will sustain what's coming, because a blessing that arrives too soon can destroy the one who's not ready to hold it. The waiting season, therefore, is not a pause in your destiny. It is a preparation for its fullness. There are things that can only be learned in silence. Endurance cannot be taught in ease. Trust cannot be built in clarity. Faith cannot mature in comfort. It is in the waiting that you learn the rhythm of heaven, that slow, sacred tempo where character matures and pride dissolves. God allows time to press against your impatience so you might grow strong enough to carry eternal weight. What you perceive as stagnation is divine education. He is teaching you to walk by faith, not by sight, to believe that even when nothing moves, He is still at work. Think of the story of David, anointed as king, yet sent back to tend sheep. Years passed, and still the throne was far away, but it was in those forgotten fields that God trained his hands for battle and his heart for leadership. David wasn't waiting for his destiny. He was being prepared for it. Likewise, your quiet season is not punishment, it is training. The lessons learned in obscurity will one day protect you in visibility. The silence you endure now is equipping you to hear God's whisper when the world begins to shout your name. Many people pray for blessings but flee from preparation. They want the miracle without the molding. But heaven never delivers blessings to unready vessels. Oil poured into an unsteady jar is oil wasted. God would rather delay your promotion than watch your purpose crack under its weight. So, if you feel overlooked, take heart. It is not neglect, it is nurture. The potter delays the unveiling of his work, not because he doubts its beauty, but because he refuses to present it before it's complete. The waiting season also refines your perspective. It teaches you to recognize what truly matters. You begin to see that blessings are not trophies of status, but tools of service. You realize that God's not yet is just as merciful as his yes. You start to understand that timing is not about convenience, it's about alignment. If a door hasn't opened yet, it's because what's behind it isn't ready. Or perhaps you're not. Divine timing requires both the opportunity and the person to mature together. And when those two elements align, the delay ends not with struggle, but with ease. Faith, therefore, is not measured by how long you can believe for something to happen, but by how deeply you can trust God when nothing seems to happen. Can you remain faithful when the heavens feel silent? Can you still serve, still praise, still hope, even when your breakthrough seems overdue? If so, then you are not just waiting, you are worshipping in the waiting. You are preparing your spirit for the acceleration that always follows stillness. Because when God finally moves, he moves quickly. The years of waiting will be redeemed in moments of fulfillment. You will look back and realize that the delay was not wasted, it was divine strategy. Every disappointment was direction. Every unanswered prayer was protection. Every slow season was strengthening your soul for a blessing you could never have handled before. So, if you find yourself in a season where nothing seems to shift, remember this. Heaven is not ignoring you. It's aligning you. What feels like pause is positioning. What feels like stillness is strategy. The same God who hides seeds underground before revealing flowers is hiding your destiny until it's ready to bloom. Trust the process, because when the waiting ends, it won't be gradual, it will be glorious. And the very season you once cursed as delay will become the proof that God's timing is perfect, and that no waiting in his presence is ever wasted. Time is a fragile thing in human hands. We measure it by clocks and calendars, yet heaven measures it by readiness and purpose. What we call too late, God calls right on time. What we label as years wasted, he names foundation laid. We live bound by the rhythm of seconds, minutes, and hours, but the one who created time stands outside it, bending it to fulfill his divine will. When God moves, he does not consult the past or negotiate with delay. He compresses what would take decades into moments, turning ordinary hours into history-shaping encounters. When you are walking with God, you must understand that time is not your enemy. Impatience is. The divine operates beyond the realm of human urgency. While we cry, "How long?" heaven replies, "Until it's right." Because to God, timing is not about speed, it's about synchronization. He does not rush to meet your deadline. He orchestrates everything according to destiny. What feels like waiting to you is often divine coordination, 1,000 unseen details aligning in perfect harmony for your breakthrough. Consider how often Scripture shows God bending time to reveal his power. Abraham and Sarah waited until the impossibility of age became the backdrop for a miracle. Moses spent 40 years in the wilderness, only to fulfill his purpose at 80. The Israelites wandered for generations, yet one day the Jordan River split and they crossed into promise. When God decides the time has come, what was long delayed transforms into divine acceleration. He collapses years of struggle into moments of fulfillment. There are things God can only accomplish in the fullness of time. Imagine if the harvest came too early. The fruit would be unripe, bitter, and wasted. The same principle applies to your destiny. You might see delay, but God sees development. He waits until your faith is mature, your heart is steady, and your character can carry what your ambition once craved. Because if blessings arrive too soon, they can become burden, but when they arrive in His timing, they become anchors of peace. Human beings often live under the tyranny of the clock. We compare our progress to others, panicking when we feel left behind. We think success must fit within a specific age or stage. But destiny doesn't obey deadlines. It responds to divine purpose. You might see someone else running ahead, but remember, their season is not yours. A seed planted in winter does not envy the one planted in spring. Each has its appointed time to rise. If you try to force your growth, you risk uprooting what heaven is still cultivating in secret. When God intervenes, He doesn't need time, He only needs truth. Once your life aligns with His word, everything begins to accelerate. You've seen this in your own story before. Prayers that took years to form answered in a single week. Struggles that lasted seasons suddenly breaking overnight. This is not coincidence, it's divine compression. God folds time to favor those who remain faithful. He can restore lost years, revive forgotten dreams, and rebuild what seemed destroyed beyond repair. The same God who multiplied bread can multiply your time, your opportunities, and your strength. But this truth carries a sacred responsibility. Patience is not passive. To wait on God's timing is to walk in faith while the world moves in haste. It's to work quietly, to prepare diligently, to believe fiercely even when nothing visible changes. You must live as though your blessing is already scheduled, because in heaven it is. Your name is already written next to an appointed hour, and when it arrives, no delay, no opposition, no human will can hold it back. When that divine moment comes, it will feel as though eternity itself leans toward you. What once seemed impossible will feel inevitable. Doors that resisted for years will swing open as if by memory of His command. Time will no longer feel like a wall. It will become a bridge leading straight into your destiny. Because time in the hands of God is not linear. It's obedient. It bends, folds, and accelerates to fulfill His promises. So do not fear the ticking of the clock. Do not think you have missed your moment. If the Creator could stretch the day for Joshua, halt the sun in its course, and resurrect dead dreams, He can also redeem your lost time. One divine moment can do what a lifetime of effort could not. And when it happens, you will see that every delay had purpose, every detour had meaning, and every prayer you thought was lost had been echoing through time, waiting for this perfect alignment. God is not late. He is precise. He is not slow. He is strategic. Time does not control Him. It serves Him. And when He says now, the years you mourned will bow to the miracle you receive. What took others a lifetime, He can deliver to you overnight. Because time bends before the one who wrote eternity, and He is about to bend it in your favor. Pain is a strange teacher. It enters uninvited, yet leaves behind wisdom that comfort could never offer. It strips away illusion, dismantles pride, and forces the soul to confront what it truly believes. Pain is not the enemy. It is the pathway to purpose. When you walk through suffering with faith, you are not walking away from destiny, but toward it. Every heartbreak, betrayal, and disappointment becomes sacred ground upon which God plants the seeds of transformation. What was meant to bury you becomes the soil that grows you. The human instinct is to run from pain, to escape it, to numb it. But in doing so, we often run from the very tool God uses to shape our character. The refining fire is never pleasant, yet it is the only thing that purifies gold. Likewise, the trials you endure are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to refine you until nothing false remains. Pain exposes what is temporary and reveals what is eternal. It strips away attachments, illusions, and dependencies, leaving behind only what is strong enough to stand in the presence of purpose. Think of the greatest stories ever told. None were born out of comfort. Joseph's betrayal was the doorway to his destiny. Job's suffering became the stage for his restoration. Christ's crucifixion led to resurrection. Every divine victory first passed through the valley of pain. And so it is with you. Your wounds are not signs of weakness. They are proof that God is doing deep work beneath the surface. When you feel shattered, it is not because He has abandoned you. It is because He is rebuilding you into something unbreakable. There is a sacred silence in suffering that few can understand. While others see only your struggle, heaven sees your strength. The pain you carry in private is the forge of your future. It is teaching you compassion, patience, and resilience. It is preparing you to carry the kind of blessing that requires humility, because without pain, blessings become pride. Without struggle, success becomes arrogance. Pain humbles you enough to handle greatness with grace. The world teaches you to curse your pain, to see it as punishment or bad luck. But divine wisdom teaches you to bless it, to recognize it as the evidence of growth. A seed must first be broken before it can bloom. Likewise, your breaking was not your end. It was your beginning. God allows certain hardships not to hurt you, but to heal you in ways comfort never could. Pain becomes a language through which heaven speaks lessons that ease could never teach. When life shatters, do not rush to rebuild. Sit among the pieces and listen. For it is in that quiet place of surrender that purpose begins to whisper. You will hear God's voice most clearly, not in triumph, but in tears. He speaks softly in pain, because pain silences everything else that competes for your attention. It makes you still enough to hear truth again, to realize what truly matters and what never did. That is why pain, though cruel in appearance, is often the doorway to clarity. And though it feels unbearable at times, remember this: God never wastes pain. Every tear, every ache, every sleepless night is accounted for. Nothing you suffer is forgotten. The same God who counts the stars counts your sorrows. He bottles your tears not as reminders of grief, but as ingredients for your redemption. What you lose in pain, He restores in purpose. What you surrender in anguish, He multiplies in grace. You will one day look back and see that the places where you bled are the same places where you later bloomed. The scars you hide now will become your testimony. The very wounds that once made you feel unworthy will become the proof that God was with you all along. Because purpose rarely announces itself in peace, it often arrives disguised as pain. So the next time you find yourself hurting, do not ask, "Why me?" Ask, "What is this teaching me?" For pain is not punishment, it is preparation. Every broken season is a classroom for your soul. Every disappointment is a chiseling of your destiny. You are being shaped, molded, and refined for something greater than you can see. And when the storm passes, you will realize that pain was never your adversary, it was your anointing. When God allows pain, He is not breaking you down, He is breaking you open. because only open hearts can receive the fullness of His blessing. Only those who have known pain deeply can love deeply, forgive deeply, and live purposefully. The cracks in your soul are not flaws. They are entry points for His light, and that light will transform your pain into power, your wounds into wisdom, and your trials into triumph. So do not despise what hurt you. It was the very thing that made you ready. The fire that burned you also purified you. The tears that fell became water for the garden of your destiny. And when the blessing comes, and it will, you'll recognize that every ounce of pain was necessary, because it was never meant to destroy you. It was meant to deliver you into your purpose. Closed doors have a way of wounding the human heart. They echo with rejection, with dreams deferred, with opportunities that almost became reality but slipped away. Yet what we often call rejection is in truth divine protection. We see the door shut and assume loss, but heaven sees danger, misalignment, and heartbreak that never needed to happen. Every door God closes is a shield. Every no is a whisper of mercy. Every blocked path is a redirection towards something greater than you had the courage to ask for. We are creatures of desire, always reaching, always wanting more. We pray for open doors and favor, but we rarely ask for discernment. Sometimes the door that looks beautiful on the outside hides a battlefield within. Sometimes the opportunity that glitters is coated in hidden cost. So God closes it, not to punish, but to protect. You cry, "Why me?" And heaven answers, "Because I love you too much to let you settle for less." The blessing of a closed door is one of the most misunderstood mercies of life. It does not feel holy when it happens. It feels cruel. But what is denied now is often what delivers you later. Think of Joseph, betrayed by his brothers, sold into slavery and thrown into prison. All doors that seemed to lead backward, not forward. Yet each rejection was a redirection. The pit led to Egypt, the prison led to Pharaoh, and in one divine moment, the very doors that once confined him became the corridors of his calling. Had Joseph been spared the pain of closed doors, he would have missed the palace prepared for him. God's no is rarely the end. It's often the detour that leads to destiny. When God closes a door, He is not withholding good from you. He is guiding you toward His definition of good. His perspective sees beyond the immediate thrill of opportunity into the long-term consequence of choice. You see the surface, He sees the soul. You see the moment, He sees eternity. And because He loves you, He will barricade paths that end in destruction even when you cry for them to open. His refusal is redemption in disguise. There are people, places, and situations you prayed would stay in your life that God intentionally removed. Not because they were evil, but because they could not go where you were headed. Some doors remain shut not because they were wrong, but because you have outgrown them. God will not let you dwell in rooms too small for your calling. He will lock what you keep trying to reopen because your future no longer fits there. Bliss makers, the people who you used to love are no longer fit there. The door that closed was not an exit from purpose, it was the entrance to growth. The closed door is God's way of saying, "Trust me." It requires faith to keep walking when everything behind you looks familiar and everything ahead of you looks uncertain. It's easy to thank God for the doors He opens, but the real test of maturity is thanking Him for the ones He shuts, because behind every divine denial is a hidden deliverance. The job you didn't get saved you from burnout. The relationship that ended saved you from heartbreak. The plan that failed saved you from mediocrity. Heaven is a master of protection through prevention. One day you will look back on every closed door and see the invisible fingerprints of grace. You will realize that what you thought was loss was redirection. The rejection letter was a rerouting toward your true assignment. The heartbreak was God's way of creating space for someone who would love you in alignment with your purpose. The delay was heaven holding you still until the path ahead was ready to receive you. Letters hold a prophecy, or a new world, where the rest of the world dares to obey. Prayer and temple hymn. Every disappointment was a step in divine choreography, a perfect sequence of pauses and closures, leading you exactly where you needed to be. Closed doors are not your enemy. They are sacred boundaries drawn by divine hands. They protect you from premature exposure, from unseen traps, from self-destruction. They are the reason your story will not end in regret. For if every door opened when you asked, your life would collapse under the weight of your own desire. But God, in His mercy, interrupts your plans to preserve your promise. And when He finally opens the right door, you will understand why the others had to stay shut. The peace will be unmistakable. The alignment will be effortless. The timing will feel supernatural. You won't have to force it or chase it. It will simply fit. That's how divine openings work. They carry the fragrance of destiny, not desperation. So when a door closes, resist the urge to knock harder. Instead, pause and whisper, "Thank you, Lord." For if you could see what He's protecting you from, you would rejoice in the very thing that broke your heart. Trust the one who sees beyond sight. The door you're crying over is the wall between you and disaster, and soon, when the right door opens, you will walk through it with gratitude for every divine no that saved your life along the way. There is a difference between silence and stillness. Silence feels empty, stillness feels sacred. And though it may seem that God has gone quiet, He has never stopped working. The divine often moves beneath the surface, in realms the human eye cannot reach. Just because you don't hear footsteps doesn't mean heaven isn't on the move. God is not a performer seeking applause. He works in secret because true transformation happens away from noise. While you are waiting for a sign, He is rearranging your destiny behind closed curtains, weaving threads you don't yet understand, into a pattern that will make perfect sense when revealed. The human heart is uncomfortable with silence. We mistake it for neglect, imagining that God's quietness means He has forgotten us. But what if His silence is strategy? What if it is the divine pause between preparation and fulfillment, the stillness before the unveiling? Consider the way seeds grow. They do not sprout in the light, but in darkness, beneath the soil, where eyes cannot see. In that unseen world, roots take hold, systems strengthen, and life is formed. If you judge the seed by what's visible, you'd assume nothing is happening. But the truth is, everything is happening, just not where you can see it. In the same way, your quiet season is not the absence of movement, but the place of divine formation. God's silence is not idleness, it is incubation. He is developing the unseen architecture of your breakthrough, aligning people, timing, and circumstance so perfectly that when He finally acts, it will feel effortless. It will seem sudden, but in truth, it was years in the making. What you call delay is heaven's preparation. What feels like waiting is God making sure every piece fits your purpose. Think about the story of Esther. Before she was queen, she spent years hidden away in preparation, while the palace carried on unaware. It may have seemed that nothing significant was happening, but God was orchestrating a shift in kingdoms. The silence of those years was not wasted, it was divine design. When the moment came, her influence unfolded overnight. That is what divine stillness does. It conceals you until the right moment to reveal you. You see, if God spoke every second, you would never learn to trust His presence in quiet places. Silence teaches faith in ways words cannot. It trains the soul to depend not on noise, but on knowing. It strips away the need for constant reassurance and replaces it with anchored confidence. Faith matures in silence, because silence forces you to remember what God already said. You stop chasing new confirmations and start resting in His last command. That is how warriors are built, not in the roar of miracles, but in the stillness of obedience. Even when you think He's doing nothing, God is rearranging everything. He is softening hearts that once resisted you. He is opening doors you don't yet know exist. He is positioning you for encounters that will shift your path forever. His silence is not distance, it is strategy. The Creator moves like the tide, quietly but powerfully, shaping the shore without noise. The most profound miracles often happen in whispers, not in shouts. There will come a moment when all the unseen threads suddenly pull together. What once made no sense will reveal perfect order. You'll realize that every unanswered prayer, every closed door, every quiet season was a carefully planned movement in heaven's choreography. You will see that while you were asking for a sign, God was building the foundation. And when the breakthrough appears, it will feel like it came overnight, but it will carry the weight of years of divine construction. So learn to rest in the quiet. The silence is not proof that God has left. It is proof that He is near. He speaks in whispers because He is close enough not to shout. He hides His work from sight because He wants your trust, not your sight, to lead you. If you can worship Him in the silence, you will recognize Him in the storm. If you can trust Him in stillness, you will follow Him in motion. Remember this: heaven's greatest movements are often hidden. The womb of purpose is silence. The space between promise and fulfillment is sacred, not empty. When you feel forgotten, you are actually being formed. When you feel overlooked, you are being prepared. When everything seems quiet, heaven is closest. God is working, not loudly but lovingly, not visibly but victoriously. And when the moment comes for the silence to break, you will realize He was never still at all. He was simply setting the stage for your miracle. When the blessing finally comes, it will not merely lift you, it will restore you. The difference is profound. A blessing lifts you out of a situation. Restoration takes you beyond where you were before it. God does not deal in half measures. When He moves, He does so completely, rewriting what was broken and redeeming what was lost. The blessing that is about to enter your life will silence every doubt, answer every prayer, and redeem every tear you ever cried. It will not only prove that He heard you, it will prove that He never forgot you. You have waited, endured, and held on through seasons where nothing made sense. There were nights when you questioned if your prayers even reached heaven. But faith is not about what you see, it's about what you trust. And because you kept believing, even when the silence was long, you positioned yourself for something extraordinary. You stood when others gave up, and that endurance has drawn heaven's attention. What's coming now is not random favor, it's divine reward. It's the fulfillment of a promise that has been maturing quietly behind the scenes, waiting for this very moment to unfold. When God blesses you, it is not a small gesture. It is a revelation. It reveals why the pain was necessary, why the delays were divine, and why certain doors had to stay closed. The blessing becomes the translator of your suffering. It takes what once seemed meaningless and turns it into meaning. You'll look back and realize that every dark valley was leading to this mountaintop. Every setback was a setup for this unveiling. The pieces you thought were shattered were never random. They were puzzle fragments being rearranged by the divine hand of destiny. This blessing will not just be material, it will be transformational. It will bring peace to places within you that success alone could never touch. It will heal the invisible wounds that applause could never soothe. God's restoration always begins inside, before it appears outside. You will wake up one day and realize you're no longer striving to prove your worth. You are walking in it. You're no longer chasing affirmation. You are surrounded by grace. The same people who once overlooked you will now have to watch as God publicly honors what you carried privately. But what makes this blessing different is not its size, it's its purpose. It comes not to inflate your pride, but to confirm your promise. It will remind you that endurance is never in vain. It will vindicate your faith and silence the voices that said you'd never make it. Divine blessings always carry divine timing. They arrive at the very moment when you're mature enough to handle them without losing yourself. That's why the delay was so long. Heaven wasn't withholding. It was waiting until the gift would grow you, not break you. When this blessing comes, it will redeem lost time. God has a way of restoring what the years have eaten. He multiplies joy where sorrow once lived. He rebuilds confidence where fear once ruled. He restores relationships, opportunities, and peace in ways that leave no trace of loss behind. You may think too much time has passed, that it's too late to recover what was lost. But time bends before God's restoration. He doesn't just give you back what was taken. He gives you more than you ever imagined. That is the mark of his hand. He overflows. And when it happens, it will not come quietly. The same people who saw you struggle will see you rise. The same situations that once held you captive will become testimonies of grace. You won't need to defend yourself or explain how it happened. The transformation will speak louder than any words ever could. God's favor will become the evidence of his faithfulness. Your blessing will not just change your circumstances, it will change your atmosphere. It will shift how you think, how you move, and how you worship. Because once you've seen what his restoration looks like, you can never again doubt his power. There will be peace in your heart where there used to be panic, confidence where there used to be confusion, laughter where there used to be longing. That's the beauty of divine restoration. It not only repairs what was broken, it renews the joy of living. You will find yourself thanking God for the very seasons you once begged him to end, because without them, you would not recognize the magnitude of his blessing now. So, prepare yourself. The waiting has not been in vain. You are about to walk into a blessing that redeems every loss and silences every fear. It will not only answer your prayers, but exceed them. It will come suddenly, yet carry the weight of everything you've endured. And when it arrives, you will know it wasn't luck, it wasn't coincidence, it was divine justice. The blessing will not just lift you, it will restore you completely, proving that every tear, every trial, and every closed door was leading to this very moment, where God makes everything new again. There comes a time in every soul's journey when the waiting ends, when the darkness lifts and the long silence gives birth to a sound of breakthrough, of answered prayer, of divine fulfillment. That time is near for you. You have walked through valleys that tried to break you, carried burdens that few could see, and remained faithful when faith felt impossible. But every tear, every prayer, every sleepless night has been collected in heaven's keeping. Nothing you endured was in vain. God has been building something in secret, and now the unveiling is at hand. The blessing you're about to walk into will not arrive with chaos, but with peace. It will not confuse you, it will clarify you. You will feel the unmistakable hand of God on it, steady, sure, and gentle. And when it comes, it will not only change your circumstances, it will change your understanding of who you are and who he has always been. You will see that his timing was not delay, it was design. You will recognize that the pain that shaped you was not punishment, it was preparation. There will be a stillness when it happens, a sense of divine order settling over your life, as if heaven itself excels in relief, saying, now. You will realize you were never waiting for the blessing was waiting for you to become ready to receive it. All those moments of doubt will fade, and in their place will stand a quiet confidence that could only be born through endurance. You'll understand then why the doors closed, why the people left, why the plans fell apart. It all had to happen to make room for what's coming. God was not taking things from you. He was making space for what's holy. The blessing that's on its way will redeem your lost years, heal what was broken, and restore what you thought was gone forever. It will prove that God never forgot you, not for a moment. So, stand tall in this final stretch of waiting. You are standing at the edge of a divine unveiling. What comes next is not small. It is the fulfillment of everything heaven has promised you. The night is almost over, and dawn is breaking. You are about to walk into a blessing that will change everything overnight. And when it happens, you will smile through your tears and whisper, "It was worth it. Every step, every scar, it was all worth it.